Alright. Okay, what am I going to say here? We'll edit that part out. So, hi everybody. I'm Peter. That's Pat over there. Say hi, Pat.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Hi.
And that's Felix, my cameraman. Say hi, Felix.
Hi there.
Yep. And welcome to the Union Freight Railroad that is located in the basement of my house. As you can see by my shirt, I spent most of my money on trains. The rest I just wasted in my life. At the end of this layout, you'll understand why. So, this is the Union Freight Railroad. It's actually two railroads combined. It's a combination of the New Haven Railroad in the... Let me take this thing off, that's going to distract. The New Haven Railroad Old Colony branch, specifically the East End, which ran from Boston south through Quincy, my hometown, and points south. And the other half is the Union Freight Railroad, which is a subsidiary, or was a subsidiary of the New Haven. It was a street-running railroad that ran behind South Station from the New Haven Railroad up Atlantic Avenue, up Commercial Street, behind North Station, and connected to the Boston Main Railroad, connected to railroads and serviced all waterfront businesses along the way. And you'll see that on the other side of the railroad here, we've got some of those waterfront businesses there. So we're going to start here at the South Quincy Yard. Actually, it's called the Quincy Adams Yard back in the day, located in South Quincy. Not sure how many cars this holds, but it's enough. There is a yard up around the corner there too, which sometimes I use for an engine house and sometimes I don't. We start our operating session out. If you would, Felix, show the write-up. Now this write-up is on the main page of my Facebook album that you got to already. But just some current statistics here. Just for some of you statisticians out there, I operate with an NCE, Digital Command Control System. I can run as many trains as I want. The layout is 14 by 20 feet. It is horseshoe shaped with a divider in the middle. Those stats are a couple of years old. Probably well over 600 figures now, almost 300 vehicles, and just lots of stuff. I love scenes, I love people, I love my layout to come to life. I see too many layouts, which I never met a layout I didn't like, but there's a lot of layouts with just trains and no people, and I want to make my railroad come to life, and you'll see that. So we'll start in the yard here. Felix, if you'd show around. Stop. Okay. So we'll start here at the Quincy Adams Yard. In no particular order, we've got an engine house here where we're doing some surgery on a diesel engine locomotive. Yeah. For the locomotives are DCC. A good chunk of them have sound in them. I'll run one around at the end of the demo. But the thing is, if you notice all of the little individual scenes, you'll see some people, men working here fixing track. Lots of junk thrown around the layout. We've got some men on strike over here. Probably take it this angle. Okay, and if you step around, take it for that. And then we've got some other scenes around here, so I'll let you just work your magic with that. Okay, so we'll work around the corner here to the South Boston waterfront. This part is the Union Freight Railroad. Again, it's a street-running waterfront, very heavy industrial servicing. We've got Commonwealth Pier here on the side here. And Felix, if you come around this side here. To the roof? Yeah, I took it off so you can see in there.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start with the Domino Sugar sign. That sign actually existed in South Boston. I think it was over somewhere by the Gillette factory in South Boston, but it overlooked one of the freight yards, so Miller Engineering made it. I just had to have it. But Felix, if you start at the end and just work your way slowly with all the scenes. And like I said before, I love people, figures, action, lots of stuff. Okay. Call your attention to the lobster boat here if you zoom on that a little bit. And you folks will notice the lobster traps, and I don't know if it's going to come out, but if you look real close at the lobster traps, you will see HO scale lobsters. What else would you have in lobster traps, right? Little waterfront dock with a crane, and in here we've got some people swimming in Boston Harbor. We've got the police yelling at them because they're not supposed to be swimming there. I do a lot of things to try to make some different tricks. Like this person here and this person here is actually one person I cut in half, but you can't really tell. A lot of real estate to cover, so trying to get the most out of my people. But you'll see here, you'll see birds, you'll see people, tires. You'll notice the kids stating their opinion to the police, and if you would zoom in on the police. And just warning everybody right now, this is the wrong side of the tracks where the not very nice people live. So you might see some not very nice things on this side of the layout. Okay. Moving right along, and Felix, if you go in there to the waterfront. Okay. Again, Commonwealth Pier, switcher coming out. Typically this railroad ran at night, so you'll see the guy with the lantern in his head, in his hand, excuse me, with a little construction scene and just lots of chaos and confusion. The object of part of the operating session is to come from the yard you see by the pier up to the avenue, which I'll show you momentarily, and back to the barge, which you see down below here, which I'll get to in a moment, and just run back and forth all day. Let's just pan all of that. Okay. As you can see by the barge here, that's the Walters kit with the apron and the actual barge. The barge is about 36 inches long. It holds 12 to 16 cars depending on their size. We've got a work barge here that's doing some work on the barge and in the harbor. We've got some kits over here with the boats going along, and show those, Felix, and we've got the party boat here. And then if you would show the boathouse too. And like I said before, lots of details. And stepping right along here, you go into this angle here, Felix. We've got a boat yard. The boat rack here is actually a building under construction that I used for the boat racks. I see a lot of those down in Florida where my daughter currently lives. So I had to have a boat yard on the waterfront with the boathouse, the forklift truck that picks them up and moves them around. Lots of boat junk hanging around in here. And in a big field, we've got a ball game. If you zoom in for that for a second, we've got kids playing ball as the train is pulling off the ferry and trying not to hit the kids. The skyline, if you go over to the chimney, Felix, and start right to left, the skyline is actually the Boston skyline. You'll notice the Old North Church. You'll notice the Custom Tower over here. You'll notice 60 State Street and very familiar Boston buildings for those who know the city. We've got the Citgo sign with a chase pattern. I'm trying to hide the light so you can actually see it. Hope that shows up. But there is a chase pattern going on the light. Okay. Other details. Oh, we've got a plane taking off from the airport. We've got Superman up here. Lots and lots of stuff. Starting from the back and working out. That is the hook, line, and sinker fish pier. If you zoom in on that sign, you'll see the 3 owners of the company. 3 of my favorite people in the world. And their motto, if not for the tuna, try us for the halibut. There is some adult humor on the upcoming billboard, so just warning you right now. That's some of you remember Brioski back in the day. We'll zoom on that for a second. What else have we got? Oh, and then we've got an X-Lax billboard here, which I actually made the 3 of those billboards. Got some pictures off the web and things. And then the sign dedicated to all the women out there suffering in menopause. Your wife is hot, show her you care, fix the air. Multiple chase patterns on that, so I try to pick a rather obnoxious one, which that is. The dock on the fish company is actually scratch built from scale lumber, piece by piece. Number of figures on their work on the factory there. We got a street sweeper coming up the road here. Lots of little scenes in here. We've got the subway, a man fixing his a flat tire with his wife giving him instructions, which you'd expect. A little push cart there, people, and if you look close, if you zoom in on those 2 people right there, Felix, you can see those folks actually eating off the push cart. Like I said, lots of people, lots of action. Before we do the Woolworth, let's go to the drive-in. We'll just zoom on the different drive-in there. You can see the various muscle cars and things you would see back in the day. You won't be able to see it, but if you come in from right here, Felix, from this angle, you'll see the car hop, the waitress. Those waitresses are actually on roller skates. Let me see if I can actually, yeah, this one right here.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how close you can get, but her and her fellow waitresses are actually on roller skates, just like you would see back in the day. And we've got a cobblestone street. There's a couple streets like this still in Worcester. That's actually a piece of a cobblestone thing I bought like that, painted it street gray, and then just threw some fake plaster up there to just make it look like aged pavement. Let's just pan the city here. That strip mall there, I got to get some signs on the buildings, but that's FW Woolworth so far. You'll see the truck there too. What else did I one of my favorite things is the Moxie machine over here, the orange machine, and the sidewalk elevator. For you old car nuts out there, that is an Edsel. Yes, it's an Edsel. Okay. We got the phone booth here, mailbox guys singing, and then the Bottoms Up Bar and Grill, which is a very not so nice place. Actually, one thing to just show. I'm going to move these. Ah, damn it. Okay. So, the donut shop is actually Walther's kit. The jimmies are real jimmies. I put Elmer's glue after I painted the donut. Put the jimmies in a paper plate, stuck it in, and whatever stuck just stuck to the thing, and that's it. So yes, those are real jimmies. It's a pretty active donut shop with a police car there and various other muscle cars. Yeah, we got some modern cars and some older ones, but that's okay. I kind of like it. Got a nice shot up the street here too. Got a busy little side street here. Trying to keep away from the trains. You can take one shot in at the building here. Oh, we didn't show that building back there, the burned out one. I'll tell a story on that one.
Okay.
So you'll notice this building is actually boarded up with some nasty plywood and everything. The story behind that, I went to build that kit one night. I opened the kit and for some reason I did not have any windows or doors in there. I don't know what I did with them, but I was hell-bent on building that building that night. Since I didn't have doors or windows, I really wanted to build it. I just put some wood behind it and made it a burned out building. So just that building came together just quite by accident. Oh, and the bus actually does say South Station. That's an actual MTA bus that ran through Boston back in the day. The era for here is somewhere between 1956 and 1960. The buildings are trying to be that era. But that's the story on that building. And if we'll just come down here, if you just kind of maybe pans. Okay. And don't forget the billboard up here. If you stand right here, you can get it from this angle. So, like I said, lots of billboards. Lots of billboards. This is one of the recent kits, and I forgot to put the lights in Lucky Lugnut's garage. But that's a Walther's kit modeled after my Uncle Tony's gas station. If you look inside, you'll see cars and some things, but the electronics for the sign are actually in this compartment. If you look in this door right here, you'll see the car up on the lift. That did not come with the kit. I took the crappiest car I could find and took a dowel out of the wastebasket and just shoved it up in there, and that's what the lift was made of. You'll notice muscle cars and people working and things. The gas pumps are brand new also. Those are Classic Metal Works. And just lots of detail on those. You can show it from this side too. You can actually see them if you can zoom. I'm not sure. Right there. So, lots of activity going on at the gas station. Yep. Okay, so we'll start. We got the Miller High Life beer. My dad used to like that, and I saw the sign, just kind of fell in love with it. We've got the Prince Spaghetti Company, which actually used to exist on Hanover Street back in the day. I don't know that it was that big, but it's close. Love the Moxie sign. Lots of details on the roof, the tanks and things that we have. Nice little dock for different things. The, what else? Oh, this car was custom designed by me. It's an AccuRail car. It came with the road letters here, the data, but I made the verbiage and the pictures off the internet and printed it on my little computer with decal paper, and just slapped it on the car, and next thing you know, I have a custom-made car. And continuing on the Prince Spaghetti Company, these again are decals and decal paper with a little paint behind it too, the white paint, weathered along. And if you notice on the background here, I improvise on some of the piping and things you see. For example, the drain pipe coming down off this drain, that's actually a sprue that comes out of my kit. All of the parts that come with the kit come out of that. So I just took it and there's a nasty crack right there where I put two pieces of the kit together, and I just wanted to hide it, so took a hunk of junk and hid that. And another thing that I did was this vent, the construction vent for all the construction waste going into the dumpster. You see the dumpster there?
Yep.
Yep. Push that over. Okay. The as you're looking at that dumpster, I just gotta fix something I knocked over. Sorry. The chute coming out of the building, that is actually a milkshake straw from a local ice cream company.
See.
So I had that kicking around for a while. It's like I had to do something with it, so it just came out of the building. You see those all over the place in Boston when they're doing construction. You'll also notice if you pan the area Felix down, the buildings are equally weathered, and there's no real science to it. I weathered them up as best I could at the time, and I tried to blend them in by using something like India ink and alcohol. I took the spray gun and just sprayed it down from the top, and I tried to simulate rain. And the buildings all just weather the same from the natural elements. So you don't have something looking really new and then something looking very, very weathered, because all the buildings would have been up for quite some time by this point in the era. So that's the Prince Spaghetti Company. Let's talk about the junkyard here. Lots of detail in here. One of my favorites is the 3 junkyard dogs that we have right in here. Okay, the junkyard goes with the gas station, and just tons of junk and crap thrown all over the place. Some of these are actually cast loads. That's an actual cast load. That's a cast load. All these other just loose detail parts. One of my favorites is this stack of tires, which is actually elastic bands. When my kids had braces, they had these elastic bands that just looked like little car tires. So I just glued them all together and just spray painted them black, and rather than go out and just spend money, I just made some loads for next to nothing, and it's typically what I'll do in a lot of this stuff. The crane is a lifelike. The magnet that you see with the yellow caution on it, that's actually a push pin. I took the metal piece off and just glued a piece underneath to hide the little tip that's sticking out. Then that's taking junk to and from the railroad car and the truck. That's that scene here. Just a side note, if we could pan the layout a little bit, you'll see these buttons all over the place. This is for the switches that go into the sidings for the different factories. These are all wired to motors underneath the switches, so you can hear those click. Okay. There's other different motors too, and you hear that. So now that's when you know when it's thrown. Okay, throw that back. So as you're operating and going in and out of the factories, you'll throw those buttons to back into your factories from there. So let's see. We did the junkyard. Let's show the Boston Garden here. Okay, the space here is for a new building that's going, and I actually had something there, but I just keep moving the buildings around, and we can never make up our minds where we want these things, and every time I move a building, the whole dynamic of the layout changes. So we freed that up, and there's going to be Johnny Stachino's restaurant there. They'll fill it in nice. The picture of the Boston Garden here, if you zoom on that for a second, Felix, and while you're zooming, that's actually taken from Canal Street. I was at the end of Canal Street when the old garden was there, and just took that photo, had it kicking around for a while, and just needed a backdrop to just fill something in. So that fills in that street. So when the building is here now, that will look like a real street. And what else? You can see the IGA market there on the side. We'll talk about the lumberyard next. Okay, I'll let you zoom in on different things on the lumberyard. This is actually patterned after a lumberyard me and my dad used to go to when I was a kid. It was located in Dorchester, the old Bonnie and Carey Building Supply. We've got real lumber in there, real HO scale lumber. They had buildings just like this. You can see it in there too. Just like the old day lumberyards used to have back before the time of Home Depot and everything. If you can look up, Felix, and scan the pieces and things in here. Let me pull that out so you can actually see it. There. So, bricks and wood and stuff. You've got the saw bench over here for cutting wood. Lots of customers running around with different things and forklifts and things. So if you just get as much detail as you could. Okay, so that's the lumber yard. We'll take a little walk up Hanover Street now, and before we do, if you just get that angle in there with those buildings. And I don't know if you can zoom in from here and get the street. If you can't, we'll go around the corner and get it. This is one of the newer buildings here, the Palace Card Room. It's actually 2 buildings, 1 kit. Notice all the people there. Like I said, very busy street. Lots of people. We've got a couple here waiting for the bus. Another couple just came out of the bakery. A little taxi. Is that the Natick taxi cab? I forget what color that is. The white one there.
No, I believe that's.
I forget the checker or something. Yeah. But lots of activity. That's actually Hanover Street with buildings that you'd see. And again, if you can see the little pipe coming down, the drain pipe coming down from the roof, maybe if you step this way, Felix, probably get it better. There was a seam that I just could not get out of that building, and it was aggravating the hell out of me. So I just had to hide that. I put spackle in there. That wouldn't hide it. The paint just would accelerate it, and I just said the hell with it. I put that drain pipe over, and now no matter where you stand, you can't see it. Oh, get the coffee shop while you could too, while you're there. Okay. That little coffee shop is a Bachman kit, and that just fills in that little corner nicely where the little sidings go into. Okay. And moving right along, this is the back end of the Panther Brewery. Again, if you zoom in on the billboard, again you'll see the 3 guys you saw on the Hook, Line, and Sinker Fish Company. 3 Stooges are among my favorite people. The motto of the brewery is "Raise a glass for duty and humanity," which some of you will know and love. That actually came off of a bottle of 3 Stooges beer they had back in the day. So that's where I got the name for Panther Brewery. And you can zoom in on the back of the warehouse there. You can see some of the activity. I'll bring the stool around the corner for you, and then you can just work your way around to the cannery.
Yep.
You got enough light there? Should I put that light on behind you? Or?
No, that's fine.
Good. All right. Okay. This little corner keeps one switcher locomotive very busy because you've got a couple of cars in here. You've got the Clyde and Dale's Barrel Factory and the ESI Cannery. So between the down and across here, it's very tricky to get into because you have to approach this track from up here, this track from there, and the crisscross is it takes a lot of work to service that particular end of the factories. And that approaches the grocery warehouse over here, which I'll get to shortly. You can see some of the activity in the back. And there's one thing I want to show here. If you look on the side of the building, right here, okay, that old-time billboard advertising for a ride on the Titanic, that's actually a refrigerator magnet that I got at the Titanic exhibit probably 15 years ago when it first came to Boston. I just peeled the magnet off the back, and it just happened to fit right in that space. So I just had to put an ad up there, and I weathered it with black chalk dust. This building here is actually, go around here. So we're approaching the D'Olimpio and Daughter Wholesale Grocers. This actually started as D'Olimpio and Daughter because at the time I had one daughter who was helping me build trains, and then my next daughter came along, and then my son came along, and I never got around to updating the sign. It should say D'Olimpio and Family, but someday we'll put a sign over that and update it. That's a DPM kit. There's a building on Federal Avenue in Quincy that looks almost identical to that, even with the windows. It's still there. I think it's apartments now, but it was a wholesale grocer that was serviced by the New Haven. The printing is actually dry transfers, put on one at a time, and this is just black paint. I put 2 strips of tape going across, and just did the dry transfers 1 letter at a time. The white white stuff you see coming out of the brick is actually joint compound, cut down with water. I just threw some on and just let it run, and it looks like some of the older buildings you see with the grout coming through. What else here? Oh, we're now approaching LaGrange Street, which is an actual street that runs between Park Street and Washington Street in Boston. It was a very not so nice place back in the day. There was actually a place just like this on LaGrange Street back in the day, so some of this is actually historically accurate. You'll notice the little bar room over here, and if you zoom in on these people, in no particular order, we've got somebody in trouble with the police, we've got people sitting here talking. I love this little hippie girl over here with the little hippie dress. We got a pastor over here trying to get people to repent. God knows they need it. Another little scenes in here, and oh, my other favorite is the little punk girl right there with the little punk hairdo. And all sorts of things. Somebody in the phone booth. Oh, and we got Disco Vinny over here on the phone pole. Just kind of hanging out while the sailor's talking to this girl, and this guy's in trouble with his wife, and just zoom in on that for a second. Let me know when you're good. Okay. And of course, right across the street from that is the Mission Church. It is the First Assembly of God Church. Notice the very worn and tattered billboard off to the right here. Okay. So that's typically where you'd find a Mission in the not very nice sections of town. And then as we look at the backdrop over here, at the back of the buildings we just saw, we got the Shipyard Brewing Company. We got some UPS guys delivering some stuff alongside of a New Haven delivery truck, which is kind of weird, but kind of liked it. And if you would zoom into the billboard over there, okay, I'll give you a little bit more adult humor. Give that maybe 5-6 seconds to read, whatever it takes. So that's LaGrange Street facing up into Commercial Street, which would go up, running north, eventually up behind the old Boston Garden, and the railroad would connect to the Boston and Maine from here. The building next to it is just a random factory that I made out of just plastic strips. The billboards on you see in the back are actually from a catalog. There's a catalog for little metal billboards from the old days that metal billboard plaques you'd hang on your wall. I just cut those out. I liked them when I just slapped on the back of a piece of plastic. And we got the freight house here. If you show the freight house, and then we'll just zoom around behind it and get a few things. This tunnel actually goes over to the other side of the railroad, and I needed to hide that, so I just took a picture of a bridge with a truck so that it looks like it's actually going across and there's a building behind it, and just trying to camouflage it as best I could. This is actually the Bunker Hill Monument in Charlestown, which you would see from this part of Boston. I want to show the billboards over here too. The 2 billboards over here, the Marx Brothers on your right, actually is a newspaper ad. I clipped that from the newspaper many moons ago, and then put Elmer's glue in the back and just worked my finger into all the bricks so you can actually see the bricks popping out like it's worn. And the Monty's Garden restaurant billboard, A, is an old restaurant that used to be here in town, and B, it's actually a matchbook. I cut up a matchbook and used that because that's what people used to do on layouts back in the day before they had printers and things like that. So we used to love that restaurant, so it lives on here on the layout. You could get in the back there too with all of the grass and things. So you see a lot of the backs of factories when you do modeling here. The backdrop here, this is actually another shot of Boston. Those buildings actually do exist. I think this is Copp's Hill, in the north end in Hanover Street, and you can see those in downtown. And let's go up here to just fill in that little corner here. Nice little scene. That goes to the other section of the layout, but I put the stone portal underneath just to hide the big wide opening that goes to the other side. You'll see as we walk around. And this is going to be the east end of the New Haven Railroad. It's going to be very much south of Boston. You'll see a very nice looking neighborhoods and different types of scenes. We'll start here in the corner where we got a little wooden bridge, which is very New Englandy. One of my daughters built that, actually. We used to go up to Vermont a lot on vacation and saw those all the time. We got a little picnic scene over here. If you look real close, people, we've got the coolers, we've got food and stuff, and the car just kind of hidden into the woods there as another truck goes over there. Next, we've got some houses and trees up in the backdrop. Love backdrops. I like to have action behind all of the buildings and just kind of blend it into different things. This house right here under construction is kind of like our house because we've always been doing something to our house over the years. You'll see the construction scene with the guys running around. We've got Joe Cool refrigeration guys showing up.
Need light.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Lots of different repair trucks and guys running around. Like I said, lots of different action. And I think if can you get in this way?
Yep.
Okay. Again, like I said, lots of scenes. Note the little flower pot in the front of the house because nice neighborhoods like to have those. And we've got the kids over here washing a car, while the TV repairman, you'll see a little RCA emblem here. TV repairman's in there fixing the TV because everybody wants to watch Lawrence Welk or whatever was around back in the day. And that's a Woodland Scenics kit, actually. It came with the car and the people. And of course we throw in the basketball hoop here. The telephone poles going down, painted by Pat, who you met earlier. And Pat actually did most of this scene in here with the scenicking and scenery in the background. He's got very much of a knack for scenery. So let's get the front of the houses if we could. And you'll notice a basketball game here. Okay, and some sunflowers. And just get as much detail as you can.
Hold on. Okay.
Okay, and let's start next in here at the school. Okay, so the Little Red Schoolhouse here, the country schoolhouse, is actually a building just like that about a half a mile from here. It's an old 1800s schoolhouse that they still use for different events and things. You notice the children running around with the swing sets and the sandbox and people just sitting around watching the trains, and our little Johnny over here on the side, he doesn't want to use the outhouse that's around the corner, so his mother's helping him out there. This is very much rural over here, so we've got some farm scenes over on the side here. You can kind of pan those. So looking at the backyards in no particular order, you see the cardinals up here by the tree house, little grills for the backyard. The rock work that you see here is actually plaster molds that we glued up with, I think we used liquid nails and plaster combination, and then we just weathered it with different colors of paint. We've got a little party scene over here. If we could zoom in on the grandma with the children having a birthday, and our little bathing beauties in the pool, if we just get everybody in the backyard. And don't forget Dad at the grill. And as you back away from that, let's get the sunflowers in the backyard. Where are they? Right here. Oh. Like I said, lots of little details here. You got to be really looking close to catch everything. And we'll get to this yard next. So the backyard here, lots of activity. We've got Mrs. Boombots over here doing her laundry while Junior's with the dog and different outbuildings and the well and things. Somebody else is barbecuing on a nice day here. And also, I grew up in a very Italian Catholic neighborhood, and everybody and their brother had the little Madonna statue out in either the front or the backyard.
Mary on the half shell.
Mary on the half shell, or as we called it, Madonna in the bathtub.
Yeah.
So, of course, on the layout, we could zoom in on that.
I did.
Yep. That is my Madonna in the bathtub. It's actually an HO scale Madonna figure in an HO scale bathtub.
Awesome.
And we just got to have the daughter over here be very careful as she's mowing her lawns. When you're done there, we'll just start here and work out. You know when.
Good.
Lots of activity here on the rest of the scenes. We've got lots of sunflowers in this neighborhood. Everybody likes sunflowers. They grow very easily. This farmer here has a little farm stand here. He's selling different things people are pulling over on the road that you'll see. You can see the farm next to that where you've got different trucks and you've got people working. We've got people actually working up here. This fence fell off actually. I got to fix that. But you can see people working, picking apples, and lots of scenes in here. When my daughters were little, they used to love scenes, and they bought me most of the people and figures you see on the layout. My daughters didn't really care much about trains, but they just loved pretty little scenes. When my son came along, he couldn't care less about the scenes. He just wanted to see trains run. So he and I worked on the trains part, but the girls all helped with the scenery. Oops.
You going with this?
Yeah, we'll do that too. So
I got that.
Get a lot of that in here. Okay, so we got the bridge coming off here with the kids mooning the trains coming along. And you got the stool over there, Pat? Guess we
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. So you can get the little scenes in here with people riding horses and cutting wood and all of that. Okay. And as we work around, this is probably the largest. I'm sorry. Good. The largest unfinished section. This is actually going to be Fossil World, and you can see the sign over here on the left because we actually have a fossil that's going to be sitting there. Kind of a touristy thing, and we've got people over here, hikers coming up to it, and it'll be kind of country and all that. But I want something, very low sitting because I want to see everything in the back. And if you'll just start here and just kind of go across with everything. You can see the little railroad shack there by the tower for storage. The road that comes up. That Greyhound bus actually says St. Louis on it. I go to St. Louis a lot for work. Let's take a second on the little dog wash here in the backyard too. So this is a dog wash on a nice hot summer day. Lots of activity, like I said. We got the milkman. His trucking is going up like we have back in the day. We have a little lemonade stand here in the driveway. That's actually new. We've got me as the paper boy. I was a paper boy back in the day, and somebody delivering papers. Let's let you get the rest of the street, and then we'll just stop at this.
All right. No, we're gonna have to.
I think we'll get the scene here, then I'll bring a train around. Okay. So we'll focus in on the train station. You can see lots of activity. You can zoom in on the conductor and the porter and the Coke machine and the shoe shine guys. Where's my shoe shine guys
Yep,
over here
yep,
by the clock and the newsstand.
Got them.
Okay. And this is also near Railfan Bridge. You'll see people taking pictures of trains because everybody loves trains over here. And before we go on, I think I'll bring a train around at the crossing and show you what we've got here at the crossing. shut the sound off so we can hear ourselves think. Pat, keep it on the train over there if you would.
Yeah,
Make
sure.
sure I don't have any problems over this. I can't see it. We've got a parking lot in the back on the train there. You can see all the nice old cars there. That's actually done with spackle and yellow tape and sealed with a dull coat. The wooden bridge that you'll see momentarily. The wooden bridge right here.
Oh, that one.
Is actually a postcard that I got up in Vermont, and I just cut the sky away, and road is plaster with yellow tape for the line markings. Let's see, we got the drive-in over here with the rather obnoxious chase pattern. Kind of what they had back in the day, back when they had drive-ins.
Still a few left.
Still a few left, yep. So I got the booth in here and lots of activity. We've got a campground here on the side. We got somebody in trouble with the police over there because they're sitting there and they're not supposed to be. And that is very much a family campground. I'll bring a train through one more time as we film that. It shouldn't be in the way. Hey, you can get the campground. The dinging will be done momentarily. So the campground just fills in that little backdrop there nicely.
Good.
And then we'll go to the road, and then this, and I'll talk about that, and then work my way into the intermodal yard.
Okay.
Okay, let me know.
Go.
Okay. The little drive over here is actually HO scale lumber that Pat and I actually made. We cut it to fit, popped little holes in it, and then we weathered it with India ink and alcohol, and that just made the little holes raise up like they're nail heads. Rather than go off and buy a kit, we actually just kind of made one, and then used HO scale ballast to come down off of the roadbed. As you saw, the tunnel over there. This tunnel is actually made out of strip cardboard boxes, some scrap boxes I was going to throw away. The portal is actually molded in a mold that I made, so I made that for a pattern for another one. I took strip cardboard for underneath this, wove it together, and glued it with a hot glue gun, and then just molded it into the shape that we wanted. And then over that went the plaster cloth and the fake rocks and all of that stuff, and then some trees and ground cover in the back. This actually pops up in the event of derailments. It's actually fairly light, but it hides the entrance to the other side of the layout, and it makes the train disappear and reappear, and actually looks like two different trains. So let's work our way over here into the intermodal yard.
Stop.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll let you just pan the intermodal yard. Lots of activity here between the outhouse and the freight office and flatbeds. And then after the yard, when you're done, we'll start there and work up. You got enough light over there?
Yeah.
So if you look at the other end of the tunnel from here, if you stand right where I am, Felix, and look, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. Again, these portals were also cast from some molds to go on the other end. This actually is not a through tunnel. It's actually a piece of, it goes up to the cardboard, and there's a piece of black construction paper to make it look dark. And I cut that truck in about 2/3 and backed it up there, so it looks like it's actually coming out of a tunnel. Trying to give an illusion of the truck disappearing. This is actually a strip of brick plastic. This is was out of a newspaper, and these were just printed off of the, actually, no, I take that back. These two were actually refrigerator magnets that I put on a printer and actually printed on paper, slapped them up against the building. And then with the guardrail here, it looks like it's just the back of a factory that's facing the downtown street. Haven't named this street yet, but you can see the backdrop there against that, which is actually a bank that I have to put a sign up against.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see the Partridge family bus, which is right next to the bank, that's being robbed. You can see, well, actually it's the armored car being robbed, not the bank. There's lots of little side streets on this section. Love that Partridge Family bus. It's actually a Matchbox that I picked up for like $1 back in the day. And speaking of Matchboxes, a lot of these things are Matchboxes and Hot Wheels as opposed to real scale models, but they look close enough. At the little Adams School here where I went, we've got Sister Mary Elephant right there. If you could zoom in on Sister Mary and the little habit, which I had back in the day growing up.
Class.
God bless the nuns for putting up with us. They all had their rulers, and they probably should have used them more with me and some of my friends, but no problems with them. And then if you go to your left, Felix, let's cover the IGA store here. I actually bought that assembled. Lots of good detail in there with the prices on the window and the fruits and things like that. You can see the little old lady over here putting her groceries in the trunk of her older car. And there is tons of activity on this street here. We've got building being demolished over here. We've got a fire scene in here, and I'll just let you pan all of that. Interesting enough, the little kids pick up all the details. They'll pick up something like a baby carriage and a mom over here, and every little detail, and the grown-ups will go right by it. It's kind of funny. But lots of activity on that street. And then we'll go to the church next.
Yep.
Oh, we got to show Pat's work over here too. The stonework is the same. That's actually a plaster mold that was glued onto there and put little fake woodland scenics lichen around there. This was actually custom made by Pat off of scale lumber. The backdrop is actually the scale lumber, and these were assembled as pieces, right? So it wasn't row by row by row, but he put that and then ingeniously hit it with all of the landscaping material, so it looks like a real retaining wall that you would see back in the day. Pat also did the little guardrails here, strip by strip that you see. He's got the patience of a saint. What do we use? We use wood or plastic on those?
Wood and plastic.
That was both actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of it looks like it's actually been replaced, which you'd see in real life.
Yeah.
Some would be newer than others.
Okay.
Yep. Following on the retaining wall, this is actually came assembled. That's made by the Chooch Manufacturing. Comes as a load that we just cut in half and just straight along there. That's an older one that you'd see. So that the other one you saw was newer than this, being older. But retaining walls are pretty common back in the day. We'll start with the cemetery here and the church. There was a church like that where I grew up. It had a cemetery in the parking lot just like that. The cemetery actually went back to the 1700s. This is a little bit more modern. There's a stone like that actually where my mother's buried, not in that cemetery, but in one not too far from there. Looks exactly like that with the little markers. You can see the little golden gates to that let you in. There is the church actually has stained glass. If I cut the light just right, you can actually see it shine a little bit. But the big scene here is the wedding. You can see the bride and groom here and all the people heading out to the older cars and things. Let's just pan the wedding, and then we'll pan up the street and then work our way over. Okay, so as you look up the street next to the church, you've got Rocky's Tavern, which is the little bar between the church and Selena's Tavern next door. That's a Woodland Scenics kit, probably one of the first kits I ever built. You'll notice the bullet hole if you zoom on that. I don't know if you can see with the lighting, but the window actually has a bullet hole in it that I just poked through with a little common pin. You notice the Ballantine truck in front of it, delivering its daily share of beer. And just a lot of activity there with the cars and things going back and forth from one end by the cemetery up to the rotary with the World War II statue right there.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. You'll notice the elderly gentleman standing up there with his son. They're noticing the statue. My dad was a World War II vet, that's us. And had to put that in there. and maybe we'll do the DQ and the IGA and then work our way back into the park,
Okay.
since you're up there. If you look up the other part of the avenue there, you can see the Dairy Queen, the drive-through, and then you'll notice next to it is the IGA market. In no particular order, you'll see a person loading their groceries into the trunk. You'll see Grandma and Junior and the dog walking up to the market there by the little rocking horse. And the rocking horse next to the Coke machine, and you see people coming in and out of the store and the shopping carts. The shopping carts are actually kits made of brass. I don't know if you can see those with that bus in the way. You move the bus.
Yep. It's good. No,
Yeah,
don't,
okay.
don't move it.
Yep. Okay. We'll do the diner when we go around the corner. And then you can just come close to you and show the park.
Okay.
Okay. The park here, not sure where to start. There's all kinds of activity in here. In no particular order. We've got the food trucks. This is food truck day. People eating. You can see people actually eating burgers and whatnot. The janitor cleaning up. We've got a guy selling cigarettes. This is actually a hunk of styrofoam with a push pin in it for a statue, just kind of painted gray. We've got the balloon salesman in the statue. If you look at the top, it is actually fish in the fake water. And I'll let you just spend a minute there and just get all the people that you can. Oh, we've got somebody up here picking up the bus too. So everywhere you look, you see activity. The Ferris wheel was a gift from one of my wife's cousins. Whoops. Going too fast. I'll let you just pan it. Let me know when you're done. And where are you? Oh yeah, right there. We've got the bandstand over here. We've got people listening to some music. We've got a little jazz band in there, different things. I don't remember if I think I glued the roof down on that one. I could probably hold it up. You can see.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. Okay. And then some kids climbing all over the tank. There's actually a tank like that in our town, in a little park, after a veteran who died in the war. The Ferris wheel, by total accident, is actually to scale. It actually turns. And like I said before, it's a gift from my wife's cousin.
That turned out like really advantageous.
Yes, it really did. It just fit in this park. So, and if I just pick that up, you can see the people behind it too, and the food trucks. So just lots of people, lots of activity, very busy. So when I said, earlier in the beginning there were 600 plus people on the layout, and you guys thought I was nuts, I wasn't kidding. Okay.
The easiest thing was I traded one of those tanks
Yeah.
for the Wienermobile.
Say when.
Good.
Yep. So after the merry-go-round and the Ferris wheel and the food trucks, take a look up the street. That's actually a nice little view with the buildings. That came together completely by random, just moving buildings around till we found something we liked. This scene over here with the IGA market and the diner is brand new. I've had the buildings for a long time, but I never put them together, and they just filled in that corner. That sign was actually on another diner on the other side of the layout, and it just seemed to fit in the front of that. So we threw some people and some cars around, and now you have a scene. Okay. After you get the diner, we'll get the station here.
Okay, good.
Right?
I panned that side already.
Good. Okay. So you got the station?
Yep.
All right. So let's focus on the station here with the people. We got lots of people here reading papers, and we got a newsstand here from the Boston Globe. My father-in-law worked for the Globe for years, so that's why you see the Globe trucks all over the place. And after you pan the statue, make sure you get the nice old cars.
Yep.
Right? And then we'll get this side of the station here. We got some guys moving some stuff. Oh, that's part of the station too. What's that? Okay, like I said, I love the old cars, and various different types. You see taxi cabs and activity and just, it's a train station. Lots of busy activity. And on the other side from the train station, we'll get this little scene in here too. Whoops. Put that back. We'll just get some people at the engine house. And prepare the engine house and then the little side thing over here.
Thinking of like Steinmeier from the back.
Yeah, that,
You know, the whole
we'll,
thing.
we'll get that.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Okay, and you get the card, the thing too? The storage thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And we'll just move around here. In Dorchester, in South Boston, Massachusetts, there was a tank just like this back. In fact, it's still there. It was very controversial because it had the silhouette of a man here. That was Ho Chi Minh, the president of Vietnam, and it was built during the Vietnam War. It was up for about a year before people actually noticed it. It was done very discreet. I remember the controversy well. But that's the actual Boston gas tank. So for all of those of you who either live or have lived in the Boston area, we'll get the other side. You can actually see Boston Gas. It's still there. And then we'll get the sign there. That side with the tower, and then we'll just pan all of that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yep. And then when you get to here, you'll notice the crane that picks up and drops off things out of the cars. You'll notice the steel girders, and these are actually cast loads. One thing here, the little steel coils, those are actually bobbins from my mother's sewing machine. Actually, that's a new one. This was from my mother's sewing machine, a big old relic that weighed about 110 pounds back in the day that she used almost daily. And let's see, you got the yard before, we'll get the back there too, if you would. You can see the police station in the back there, across from the Dairy Queen. You got the back of the IGA market with some guys talking right there. And I'll just let you pan all of that. You know when you're done with that.
Okay.
And then I'll get this. I had an interesting dilemma. This backdrop here actually ended here, and I couldn't figure out how to actually blend that in without this big open spot. So I just took some flat pieces of DPM kits and put that up against the backdrop and painted the sky in the back. I try to blend that as best I can. I got to smooth it out a little bit. But that building actually hides a bunch of joints and actually blends into the skyline that you see to its left. If you maybe get the yard from there if you didn't before. And then I'll just close out.
Yep.
Okay. So that's it. That's the layout in its entirety. I have no idea what I just said or how this is going to come out, but we'll take a chance. I hope you enjoyed it. Seriously, I would love to hear your comments. If you've got layout pictures of your own layout or a website or a Facebook page or anything, I'd love to see it. I never saw a layout I didn't like. I like every layout that's out there. Love to hear your comments, feedback, any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it.